I've posted almost 40 videos from July to August, and in this video, I will share what I've learned in the process. So after I quit my job, I wanted to post 100 videos in 100 days, and I failed that goal, but I've posted most video I've ever posted, and I've learned so much. To learn about myself, I took the transcript of all the recordings and I loaded it up on both Claude and ChatGPT and ask for my weaknesses. I've learned that from a good public speaker, Vin, on YouTube, where he said to improve your communication, record yourself talking for 5 or 30 minutes, then ask ChatGPT to look at your grammatical errors, like 10 grammatical errors, and find the truth. Once I did that, I follow up with a question: how would an expert solve this problem? And Claude told me an expert wouldn't just take one video. An expert will collect 5 videos at least in different situations, different scenarios, and see the trend, which I did. I had some videos about my meeting with my virtual assistants. I had some videos about some job interviews that I did. I had some regular YouTube videos. I collected about 10 to 11 videos. And from that, I found the magic. But before I go even deeper, I want to divide this video in 2 scenarios. The first one will be about weaknesses and the second one will be about strengths, because what Vin recommended was mostly weaknesses focused. And when I did that for the first 20 to 30 videos, I got beat up because my videos sounded to sound more robotic. For example, AI recommended that my video missed articles. My videos didn't really have good transition. And sometimes the articles were confusing because people wouldn't remember what I'm referring to, which are good and valuable information. However, there is also the strength part. Most of them recognize that I have a very good storytelling strength. And about that, I score 9/10 for storytelling. But the interesting thing is, under stress, I score 4/10. There's like a 5-point difference for the same storytelling. They say when I was engaged, my storytelling will go naturally. My sentences will be 12 to 18 words and a lot of valuable data. But I think it got the stressful situation for my job interview transcript that I added to the whole lot. So basically, my sentences will become more run-on sentences. My stress level would increase and I will breathe less. So AI did a good job dissecting every little detail. At first, Claude recommended that, I'm referring to Claude AI, that I look at business magazines like Fortune, Forbes, and learn how they kind of use articles, use transitions. I did it for a while, but to tell you the truth, I felt very low for a moment because I was so focusing on improving my weaknesses, and it became overwhelming, and I stopped recording for almost a week because I could look at my transcript and all the mistakes I was making verbally. It was very disempowering. After a break, I came back, but this time I had a refreshed perspective. I told myself after reading the book, Tough-Minded Leadership, what if instead of focusing on my weaknesses, I can just focus on my strength? This will take us to the second part, focusing on strengths. And I had this brilliant idea. From now on, I will just focus on my strength 80% of the time and focus on my weaknesses 20% of the time, so it can keep me going, because focusing on my weaknesses 100% of the time really kill my motivation. So during these past 2 months, I've learned how good of a storyteller I am, and my video will mainly be storytelling while integrating all the other weaknesses like transition. But I just don't want to have a hard stop and say, oh, those are strengths, those are weaknesses, because to tell you the truth, some weaknesses need to be worked on because it enable my strengths. Sometimes I will tell a story, but by missing transition, missing articles, people will lose themselves and my communication wouldn't be as powerful as it could. So that weaknesses is not really weakness. Now the article. So basically, those weakness, if I work on them, will enable those strengths and will liberate the potential. But that's not an easy fit, because to access the strengths, I thought of 3 different scenarios. The first one, I thought about Tony Robbins' story strategy. What is it again? State story strategy framework. The second thing I thought about was the constructive imagination, as explained by Jim Newman in his book, Release Your Break. And the third things I think about was finding a professional. All that was through my research using ChatGPT and Claude.ai recommendations, mostly for the professional. I will get to that in a minute, but I want to explain how the process was. So for the Tony Robbins State Story Framework, I analyze how it can help me liberate my potential in stressful situations, like the job interview I referred to earlier, or even in everyday life. Situation can be stressful. Those where the framework of Tony Robbins had limitations, because yes, you can prime yourself if you have a scheduled, a stressful conversation. You can do something like 20 jumping jacks or 20 push-ups or breathing exercises to prime yourself. However, most situations in life are not planned. You don't plan stressful situation. You might have an indication in the street. It's not planned. So how would you say liberate your potential and articulate properly when you are in those situations? So that's one question that framework couldn't resolve. Next, if I talk about the constructive imagination by Jim Newman, this is a good framework too, because you can like visualize different situations and prepare yourself mentally. So next time you are in the situation, you know what to do just by visualization. But that has limitations too, because you can visualize the perfect situation, but in life, things happen. You don't control the timing. Like you cannot visualize every little situation in life before it happens, even though it's helpful. And moving forward, I'm gonna use all 3. That's why a professional is required, because what I really need is a neurological intervention. And I'm still figuring out how I'm going to get help with that. But I just wanted to report to you what I've learned in those past 2 months of doing a video every 24 to 48 hours. And it's been amazing. It's been transformative. I've seen weaknesses that I really didn't know I had, because in my everyday life, I talk normally and I never understood why sometimes I wouldn't get what I want. And it makes sense that, hey, maybe at that time, the fact that I was anxious played a major role in me not getting the opportunity, because I couldn't articulate properly. And those things are very sneaky. You must be wondering how I record everything. I have this app called Otter.ai, OTTER.ai, that transcribe everything. If I have a meeting that I want to record, I can just transcribe it and study it later. That's just for educational purposes. I'm not trying to sneak on anybody, or I'm not investigating whatever. All I'm doing is trying to figure out how I can improve myself, my public speaking. And it's been very great. I've been using that app for the past 3 years. And to tell you the truth, all those discoveries were accidental. I didn't purchase the app subscription just to do that. It wasn't like I started in the beginning of the year and I, okay, I'm gonna purchase Otter.ai. I'm gonna start recording my conversations to figure out what my strengths and weaknesses are. All those are just accidental and curiosity. Vin really helped me with recording a video, asking ChatGPT for 10 grammatical errors, working on it. And he even went further and recommended that you can send it to a English as second language teacher to really create a plan, a 20-page document for you to improve, and send it to a speech therapist to really see how your articulations are, how you move, so they can have a better understanding of who you are and how they can help you. So this is what I've learned doing YouTube for the past 2 months. And to tell you the truth, the result is phenomenal. In those past 2 months, I have learned about myself and my public speaking more than I did for the past 10 years. You don't believe me? Keep watching the videos and you will see the change.